What do all of these people standing in this cotton picking field have in common with this chainsaw toting lady standing on the side of the road in this narrow strip of land that is being threatened by the state with development and expansion of a highway? I'm going to try to explain it all to you. Stick around. It is a beautiful day, and as you can see, I'm getting ready to pack up to ride to North Georgia for the moto camping cook. And as you can see, I don't have a whole lot of tread left on the rear, and not much more on the front. But I think it'll make it to North Georgia and back. But what I'm going to do today is maybe put some air in this tire, the old RT that never gets ridden. It's got a lot less tread on it, but maybe I can juice a few miles, lower pace riding today. I don't know. What do you think? Let's get out there and see what we can find. So it was a beautiful day, and I decided to get out and burn some gas and slide some of that rubber off my tires before the sun went down. And as usual, I just went exploring down 216, just a few miles from the house, and I wound up wandering past a little cut in the woods, and I thought it was interesting because it had a sign hanging on it, and I doubled back to investigate a little bit further, as I really enjoy history, and in this case, it was an old abandoned graveyard that somebody had taken the time to revive. Let's go see what we can find out. It appears somebody has stepped in here and done some work here at the cemetery. Probably some old church. I would say they've probably been gone 80 years. I'm just guessing because there's no headstones. Well, no, there's a few headstones. But there's more markers than headstones, which makes me think that this is a very old church. Or what's left of a very old church. There's not very many markers. Well, Amy Castleberry has done a good job restoring this. Geez, maybe these are markers. They look like just rocks. They've got to be just rocks. Yeah, this is just sandstone. Except for this guy over here. So yeah, classic graveyard. Sunken in graves. The box decays, the wood box decays, collapses, and the earth on top drops in. Yeah, these are markers, but they don't have names. Here we go. There we go, 1925. This guy was around almost in the Civil War. That's pretty cool. So yeah, 100 years. That kind of, well, at least the headstones that are still standing are 100 years old. Makes you wonder about the rest. I mean, this could have been wow, this thing goes all the way into the woods. 1918. Huh. Well, there's a little piece of a marker. Yeah, I guess these were poor people. These are not really nice headstones, and I would guess that a lot of people in Alabama back turn of the century were poor. Yeah, this headstone here makes me think that somebody came through here and trashed the place, which maybe it was just trees falling on them. Yeah, you got an abandoned graveyard for 100 years. Trees start falling. I think
The headstones just kind of disappear. It's kind of a nice spot. It's a hilltop at least. A couple of hilltops. I don't see any headstones over there. Or do I? Yeah, I see. Maybe these guys over here are a little bit older. There's a tree that kind of looks like a headstone. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Trees right growing out of the grave. Well, got a couple of hours before the live stream. I figured I would roll out here and see what Miss Castleberry has done with the place. It does look like maybe it was part of the graveyard and this place is eroded a little bit. How would you know? How would you know? All right, we got some bigger headstones back here. It looks like they might be newer. Maybe they're older and just folks had more money back then. I don't know. Maybe this is back where the church was, maybe. I don't know. I've always enjoyed old graveyards. Yeah, that seems like a little bit more intricate. Let's see if we can see what we got here. 1840, 1910, 11, can't really tell. I could do one of those tracings. Those are kind of cool. A lot of people are into that. Tracings. Put a piece of paper on the headstone, do a tracing. 1907, 1854. Yeah, that's a nice headstone, man. Let's see what this sucker says. Gone but not forgotten. 1908. That's a nice chiseling. Yeah, these are nice, man. They used to do. Kind of surprised with what they had back then. I guess it's the older section of the graveyard. So if it was a little church or a very small community that kids moved away, I'm guessing that's what happens in these circumstances. Old church, all the folks die off or move away or move to another church. Kids don't stay or kids join another church. And the old church just kind of withers away, and this is what you're left with. You're left with everybody's dead around, the 20s, I guess. Well, I mean, obviously with the lack of really nice headstones, you're gonna get, it's a poor community, right? It's a poor community that can't keep the church up. I'm just throwing ideas out here. I don't know what happened, but I'm glad somebody's taking care of this place. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to keep. It's a lot of work to keep a lawn cleaned up, but it's a whole lot of work to try to keep a cemetery cleaned up. You gotta come in, you can't just ride a lawnmower through here. Maybe they're trying to turn this into something like a tombstone. 100 years. I would imagine you could grow a headstone out of a grave. I think that's older than that, though. So the question is, how did she know that somebody was buried here? Because these are pretty obvious. Collapsed graves. Yeah, you got an old 6-foot box. You got a 4-foot long trench. So you got a 6-foot box that turns into a 4-foot box. It's a couple feet deep, and when the box collapses, you got a foot or more down into the ground. So, yeah, I always thought when I first started stomping around old graveyards, I always thought, man, somebody's dug this grave up and took the bones out or something. But if you think about it, after the body decays, it's mostly empty space in that box. So you got a box about that deep maybe, with about that much stuff in the bottom of it. And when the top of the box collapses, yeah, 1.5 feet. Yeah, this is very nice. Thank you, Miss Castleberry. That's a nice sign, too. Edge of... Yeah, she's actually put some money in here, too. Little pine chips. Little fence line. Very nice. I think it was one of these little old abandoned church cemeteries that got me interested in the first place in old cemeteries, because I'm running around a winding country road, got my knee down in a corner, and there's a headstone sticking out on the side of the road, and I'm like, what the hell? That looked just like a tombstone hanging out. It was the road, I guess, had widened.
And as I was making my way back to the bike, ideas started popping into my head, and I really started thinking that this was probably an old slave graveyard. That explains why there were no fancy headstones, just a handful of markers, and it started bothering me, and I wanted to investigate more. So I took the name Amy Castleberry and looked it up on Facebook, and what do you know? A load of information from Miss Castleberry about what she had found investigating what was going on, and she was the one that actually restored this place. So I got to meet with her yesterday, but I just started that story, so I'm going to save that story and maybe a few more coming up, but yeah, just stay tuned. I'm off to the Motorcycle Camp and Cook in North Georgia, and I'll finish that story when I get back, and I'll see you then.